Well, let's go to the second point here. So they say the SEC has not plausibly alleged a domestic securities transaction. The Supreme Court has held that the securities laws generally do not apply extraterritorially. This action exemplifies the SEC's disregard for that principle. Congress has not established the SEC as a global blockchain regulator, but the SEC in the case and others operates as if it has. The SEC's total failure to come up with and this is a common theme as Nuclear Herbs tweeted about later, the SEC's total failure to come up with allegations supporting domestic securities transactions, notwithstanding the agency's sweeping investigative powers, dooms every claim. Separately, the predominantly foreign nature of the alleged transactions precludes application of the securities laws to any domestic transactions that the SEC could theoretically identify. So, yeah, Nuclear Herbs mentioned, and one of the things he's a huge fan of as he's gone through this document is just how many times RH's attorneys talk about that the SEC came up with allegations. They fail to come up with any allegations supporting
Right.
anything that they have. They don't have anything to support their allegations. But yeah, what do you make of this point overall?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll go with Nuclear Herbs. They're basically saying here that they've got nothing.
Yeah,
They haven't come up with anything. And the other one is the disregard for principle. It says because they have never even been established as a blockchain regulator,
right.
but they're trying to operate as if they were. Um, this goes back to what was it, the Coinbase trial, when the judge was kind of like, I'm not even sure I should be hearing this because you don't belong here.
Yeah. Who
You're
are
not.
you? Yeah.
Who are you to decide this? This is Congress that should be deciding. Who's going to regulate this, and so I kind of head back to that point of view. Hopefully, this judge sees it in a very similar light. So that's my take on that one. There isn't a whole lot to it other than saying, guys, you haven't proven anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, and who, you're not elected, nobody appointed you to do this. You've just
Right.
kind of begun saying these things
Yeah.
and literally not proving any of them. I mean,
Sure.
they have not successfully gotten anything to be classified as a security. I mean, it's all fun and games to like go out and just, oh, this is a security, this is a security, and wave your finger around. But I mean, nobody actually recognizes it as such. So, and actually, as we all know, there's video of Gary Gensler specifically affirming that Ethereum is not a security. So, just depends on if he's teaching at MIT or heading up some,
Hmm.
ridiculous agency like the SEC.
Right.
The third thing, the SEC fails to satisfy basic pleading requirements for its securities fraud scheme claim against Pulse Chain. The complaint must spell out with particularly the circumstances of the fraudulent scheme and allege facts raising a strong inference of fraudulent intent, but it alleges no deceptive conduct at all, nor any statement that was false or misleading. On the contrary, statements incorporated by reference into the complaint demonstrate Mr. Hart's consistent candor. The SEC cannot sneak its fraud claim past dismissal by claiming that individuals supposedly had reasonable expectations about the use of alleged Pulse Chain assets. When the complaint and the disclosures incorporated therein make clear that no such expectations were ever set, the SEC may disfavor Mr. Hart's messages, but that does not make it fraud.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, so this one, when you go to the actual the
Section on.
memorandum, yeah, the section on this one, they go really into this, and how many times that Richard said the rules: when you sacrifice, you will have no expectation. You will lose your coins; they are gone. You can't expect any profit from them. Um, the addresses may be favorable to an airdrop of coins with no value, um, but because the sacrifice happened, the launch happened, all promises, and the only promises that there were would be that you're sacrificing for freedom of speech and that he was building a blockchain. That's pretty much it, and it will launch. So that alone, because it launched, because they were given out at zero value, just like they said, those were really the only promises that were made, and they were fulfilled. So it goes into that a lot in this section, And yeah, I mean, there were no claims, and if people thought there were expectations, then they didn't read the website, they didn't listen to any of the videos, they didn't, you know, it was clearly stated many times over and over. The verbiage was very intentional, over and
Yeah.
over again, about having no expectations, and um, that you shouldn't expect anything. And when you sacrifice, it's gone. You shouldn't worry about what happens to it after that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. And yeah, Richard clearly, made that message clear the entire time.